I think it should be old. Okay. Perfect. Nice. So, hi everyone. Good to see familiar faces, old friends and new friends. We're very happy to be able to provide you with this short webinar. Some housekeeping rules. You can cut me anytime you want. Just unmute yourself and ask a question whenever you feel you need to. We are a very dynamic and entertaining group of people. I'm very happy to be joined by my colleagues, Burak and Umut. We're not going to talk about what HelloRex does, which is our main company. We will talk a lot about why we think entrepreneurship is the only path going forward for our kids who are currently very young, as we suggest. So let me just read on this short little boat. So you also have a sneak peek on what our brand comes from. We are building Sage to be a journey, to lead a journey for children to a wiser future. And we believe entrepreneurship is the only path forward to do it. And we'll tell you more on why we did it. But before that, probably some of you are wondering, who am I? First and foremost, I'm a single parent with a 12-year-old punk who is super entertaining, super difficult at times, but always rewarding to be able to see. And ever since she was like 40 days old, I started bringing her to my work, which was in consulting and finance. And then I started teaching entrepreneurship around the globe. And as much as I could, I was able to bring her with me, which brings me to what I do for a living. I lived in the Middle East for almost 5 years, and in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, where we were investing in startups, bringing technologies to different markets, and actually helping technology entrepreneurship thrive. We have touched a lot more startups than you can see here. Most of them successfully fundraised, some of them exited, of course, some of them failed, but we learned with them all the way. So I'm an angel investor, an entrepreneur myself, and I'm here to talk to you about an epiphany I had a year ago. Through our learnings as a global ambassador for UC Berkeley's Starter Center and my training and mentorship through Stanford Center for Professional Development lead programs called Global Innovation Catalyst around the world, I am more convinced than ever that the path to a brighter future is entrepreneurship. And I'm not alone in this matter, because World Economic Forum reports dire consequences of not teaching students with what they need in the 21st century. We will come to which skill sets there are needed, but World Economic Forum is an independent think tank and does extensive research in jobs, technology, and anything that's related to life that's going forward. And they figured out that our kids actually need 16 different skills that are to be ready for the 21st century problems. The problems on climate, the problems of employability, the problems of education, the problems of healthcare, every problem that we can think of that are coming towards our children, like a speed train, needs different tools than we had as parents. Some of them are foundational literacies, as you can see here: financial literacy, ICT literacy, science and numeracy skills. Some are competencies that our children needs to develop, like critical thinking, communication, collaboration. And some are qualities that are harder to develop, and they need immediate attention because they develop over long term, like persistence, grit, cultural awareness, and curiosity. So as a parent, while I was studying how I can teach entrepreneurship better to adults, I came across all these reports that I actually need to focus a lot more of my thoughts to my daughter. And this brought us to another fact that our children will face, which is the rapid descent of large brands into abyss. You all probably remember a company called Kodak. Our childhood was documented on Kodak. I'm sure you all have in your homes printed photos of your childhood with your parents. Even probably your first children's pictures are printed via Kodak. You were able to enjoy mechanics from Radio Shack, or even you might even have a poem. Those large, unbeatable giants are exiting the stage and leaving their space to companies like Netflix, Google, Priceline, eBay, that are the 1990, 2000s generations of companies. And when you look into the pace of this exits, you can't stop by wondering, it's like, who is out next? Which large company we grew up with, probably worked in, depending on your geographies, is going to be out. And this is stressful. It's already been documented in this great book by Clayton Christensen, the late professor, when he quoted Innovator's Dilemma. Whenever you're working, wherever you are based, I'm sure you started hearing the word innovator over and over again in your work setting, in your cultural life, in your social life. That word did not arrive into the education scene until maybe COVID. We may assume there are large entities and startups battling for a future, but actually the pace is really fast. And sometimes we have to, as adults, as parents, we have to ask ourselves, like, are we working in the Netflix or Blockbusters of today, or are we in an industry that will be thriving? And the same problem will be abundantly important for our children's future. What is changing, what is hopeful, is there are some people working to create startups, teaching startups at a scale. Steve Blank, Eric Ries, who was a student of Steve Blank, and Alexander Osterwalder are the three gentlemen who are leading the startup teaching movement that started almost 10 years ago. And it came at a really important conjunction in time, because Moore's law, as some of you might know, is the speed of transistors and the ability of transistors increasing, doubling every year, whereas the cost is becoming stable and even declining faster. So we call this the age of abundance through exponential technology. Supercomputing power, it's been tremendously following the same path, tremendously being more available, and not only in software, but also in genetics, in human sciences, in technology base of the humanity is rapidly increasing. So the age of abundance is incrementally changing the technology scene. However, troubling for all of us is, whereas some prices are going down in consumer goods and services, some things are becoming cheaper or almost as the same price as they did in 20, 25 years ago, like textiles, clothing, toys, and TVs, there are some things that are costing us more and more. And one of them, unfortunately for all of us, is college tuition, education, childcare, and medical care. So the necessities of life in tangible products is increasing, therefore their cost is decreasing, but the necessities of intangible things like education, childcare is also increasing, whereas their cost is also increasing. But this age of abundance is tackled with startups, which we are all possibly aware of. The unicorn. It's not a mythical, magical animal anymore, but it's $1 billion valued startup, a new company that is enabled to increase these great heights over the last 10 years through exponentially increasing private funding. The fact is, and I really try to cut this short, is most unicorns that we know we use are much younger than our children. These companies did not exist when we had our kids, and now they're $1 billion plus more companies. And something to scare and maybe become hopeful about is the companies that our children will start working when they graduate are not founded yet. Our children will not work in the companies that we worked in, like banks and financial institutions and FMCG companies and whatnot. They will work in industries that does not even sometimes exist. And it is a huge change that is coming to us like a bullet train. This long story short, all of these worries and all of these hopes combined helped me decide to build the Students Academy for Global Entrepreneurship, we call SAGE. That is focusing on teenagers, on children over the age of 13 up until 18, and we'll tell you why that is. So we built SAGE for 3 different distinct value propositions and users. For our students, for our children, we really want to enforce and accelerate the adoption of 21st century skills. We want them to become global citizens, to start engaging with their peers globally as early as possible. And we really want them to build inspiring memories, building things, learning about innovation and entrepreneurship. For us, the parents, we really want to enable our children to have a booster in their employability. I know this may be too early for high school, but believe me, the time they go to college, immediately they'll start worrying about employability. We do that all the time. We enable parents to facilitate this transition with an increased access to role models, entrepreneurs from the world, global success stories, and alumni as well as give you, the parents, and give your children the ability to be distinguished through university admissions by getting these credible certifications from our academy, as well as the Innovation Accelerator Group in Silicon Valley. For universities, for high schools and universities at the same time, we are really providing a global perspective for these institutions of higher education and K-12 education to match their international competition. Whether it's in Indonesia, in Saudi, in Turkey, in Europe, all these institutions are now competing globally, and we give them this ability. All these institutions of K-12 and universities may become global members of SAGE and get the best practices, as well as have access to world-class content and instructors with minimum available cost. This is our basic value proposition for our 3 distinct user base. All of this work is hypothetical. You might think, all good, great, but does that work? Does entrepreneurship awareness actually work? And surprisingly, we had the same question. So we tested our model with students from over 20 different K-12 institutions for a university-led summer school last summer. So we were able to get distinguished institutions support in our curriculum. And through the year, we also had a great collaboration with a high school that allowed me personally to teach 10th graders for a full year. So 2 semesters long, every Monday, I was a high school teacher. And I enjoyed it immensely. And I enjoyed it immensely for a couple of reasons. One, it's always great to be around kids. I take more fun and pride and joy while working with them. But 2, most importantly, we tested if we mattered to them. And we asked the students very simple questions. Can you tell us, what do you know about entrepreneurship and innovation? and your current level of knowledge and interest. The average score was 3. So we figured that although they're always on their smartphone, like 20 hours a day, they don't know much about how the world works. But after our content, after our 10-day course, we asked the same question. What do you know about entrepreneurship and innovation? And what are you interested in? And we have a significant increase in their interest, in their knowledge, in their inquisitive nature. We take pride with what happened with these children, with these teenagers. More importantly, those children who had no idea or no interest about entrepreneurship and innovation, at the end of 10 days, intensive 10 days, but at the end of 10 days, not a single one of them said they will not be entrepreneurs. Because they understand being an entrepreneur does not mean to create $1 billion company. Being an entrepreneur is maybe being a doctor who is more interested in helping new technology get adopted in a sector. Being an entrepreneur is maybe working at a corporate and trying to come up with new business models for that corporate's life. Being an entrepreneur is taking a social stand and building a movement to tackle climate change. Building an entrepreneur is not necessarily building a $1 billion company for profit, but it's about changing something that you don't like in life and creating value. So all of the students have positive attributions and positive things to say about entrepreneurship. And more importantly for us, I think I got, I'm not sure it's not working. Okay. 1 second, it's interesting. So let me just start this stuff. Maybe I talk too much and you have questions that I did not see. So until I start my presentation again, let me pause here for a second actually. Give you the floor if you have any questions. Is there anything you would like to know? Or should I just continue with a little bit less speed? No, all good?
I'm sorry, I had a question.
No worries, go ahead.
Okay, so do you currently have businesses now apart from your angel investment division? Do you have any operations?
Yeah.
Any normal businesses?
Yeah. So what you see on screen, like Umut has a tag on YellowX. I think Burak also has it. So we are a consultancy company operating through Estonia, helping global companies, universities, and international NGOs build startup programs globally. I'm already a mentor in one of the investment funds, which is well known as the 500 startups. I'm also helping a lot of global accelerators and international startups to expand towards Middle East or San Francisco. So we are very much operational. Umut and Burak are leading another initiative that we have using artificial intelligence to measure and help startups pitch better. So we are about to launch a global startup grading system to help startups to pitch better, because most of the startups don't know how to pitch really well. So we have a few businesses up and running currently. But thanks for the question.
Oh, thank you. I've just got one more. To develop your skill set to enable you to offer this service, how did you develop that skill set? Did you do an MBA? Did you do a PhD?
So I did an MBA, but more often than not, I started my career in Deloitte. So I was a management consultant and auditor for many years. I'm actually 42, so I might look a little younger than I actually am, which is great to me. So my career started in Deloitte, auditing a lot of companies, some of them global like Coca-Cola or investment banks. And after I did my MBA, I dived into becoming an incubation manager for just randomly because I had the time and the money to invest to go and get a training from INBIA, which is the National Business Association for Incubation Associates. So I got that degree. It's not a master's degree, but it took me to US multiple times and my network grew. So when I moved to Middle East, I already had global experience managing and creating startup accelerator programs. And I did that for a large entity, a university in Saudi called King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, which has a $20 billion fund to invest in new technology development, both academically and research and also in startups. Then I moved to San Francisco. I was the managing director for a large technology university's investment program and accelerator programs, where I had the pleasure to work with UC Berkeley and Draper University to co-invest in most of the startups that I just showed. And over the last 2 years, I worked with UNDP and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and World Food Program to create one of the first global impact accelerator programs, focusing on emerging economies, solving refugee problems. And also Stanford's Center for Professional Development gave me the opportunity to become a trainer in an institution called Global Innovation Catalyst. So over the pandemic, what was supposed to be a worldwide traveling job became a remote work, but we managed to run 6 different accelerator cohorts for global entrepreneurs. And while doing all those, I was also on Mondays, I was a high school teacher because I really wanted to bridge that experience, global experience I have working with Stanford, Berkeley, MIT Enterprise Forum to the developing economies, but to K-12 education. Because I think the most important investment we can make, and probably you agree, is we can invest a lot of our time and money into technology startups. But if we create a pipeline of entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial thinkers, that pipeline will carry us towards our actual future, which according to some of the futurists, if we live 20 more years, we will probably live indefinitely. Whether you believe in the Ray Kurzweils of the world, I think technology is at a really interesting breakthrough point where our approach, our work will become more significant, impacting the youth. I hope that's the case. And I think if I may go back to where I got stuck, this is what excites me the most. I did all that work, and at the end of the summer school and the school curriculum, I had confirmation from tens of students telling me we built the curriculum to help them in foundational literacy. Our curriculum was able to give them the right competencies on using their creativity and presentation skills. And it was really important. They built the character qualities of feeling more confident, understanding what they need to be more perseverant in their life. So that was really great. And one of the other things that we did, and I'm not going to dare you to do a short exercise, but we managed to break ice for these global teenagers by giving them assignments that they would usually not want to do, even face to face. So we built a very engaging, very fun for kids curriculum, and they became more curious about their creativity and about their life. And this is something we are truly, truly happy because we found a way to teach without teaching. How did we do that? Very easy. No, it wasn't easy at the beginning, but we give them the floor and we give them the opportunity. They write essays, they present, they watch movies and critique the movie. They are actively creating content. They're actively contributing to the conversation, which is great for teenagers because that's what gives them the confidence, the understanding, and perseverance. We give them friends as well as role models. These global teenagers are working with people they did not know. They might be living across the ocean, and they have role models to come across with. So we invite entrepreneurs regularly to our conferences, and our content is created by entrepreneurs and instructors, which will come in a second. And we give them relevant real life examples. We're not telling them to look for, we're not even telling them to go and look for Apple or Samsung, because that's a tool for them. For us, those are large entities. But we engage with them by asking them, which entrepreneurs' thoughts did you spend the most time with today? And this kind of puts them in an inquisitive mode. And then they understand that their life, their digital born life, is actually full of inspiration, full of entrepreneurship, and they can learn through more of those real life examples. So in short, and I'm trying to leave a lot of room for questions, Sage is a tool, a program for high school students, providing accelerated learning, giving them the accessibility options at any time, any place. And we have a very holistic approach to engage these kids. And who are we as the instructors? So we are 3 instructors with all the credentials in the world. We built a program for MIT Enterprise Forum. Amal is a graduate of design school for Stanford. She worked at Babson. And Mark is the founder of IAG Group, who's a professor, instructor in UC Berkeley already. So he's been an entrepreneur. We have all been entrepreneurs in our own lives in multiple regions of the world. And we are super passionate about what we're doing at Sage. So in short, our programs are 2 days, 4 days, and 10 days programs. We have different durations and different abilities that we provide to students. And if the students, this year is special because we have started a collaboration with the San Francisco-based Innovation Acceleration Group. So our graduates of our summer 10-day program will receive, if they pass a test, they will receive a successful participation certification from a reputable education institute in San Francisco. So with that, I just wanted to walk you through what we started doing, why we started doing what we're doing, and how we managed to do all that in a relatively short time span, because this is really important for us to be able to tell you the story of why we think teaching high school students is critical to support the future that we will all share in a short amount of time. So with that, I just want to leave the floor open for questions, comments, and your contribution is very, very demanded and highly appreciated. So I want to thank to Umut, Burak, and AJ for being a part of this whole journey. And I want to thank all the participants for taking the time in multiple time zones. It's been a pleasure to be able to reach out to so many global parents and global enthusiasts. And any questions, any comments? Are we on the right path? Are we not doing something right? Do you have any other examples that we should look up to? And anything of that sort? We'll be happy to hear you.
Sorry, Ozan, it's me again.
Come. Welcome, my brother.
Okay. Which 3 entrepreneurs most inspire you and why?
So I'm a lucky guy because I have a lot of entrepreneurs that inspire me. I learn a lot from the startups that I invest. So I'm not inspired by Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or somebody that has been developing a different technology in a place that I don't know. But I'm day by day inspired by people that I see their struggles. For example, Scotty is one of the companies I invested. It's been going well, was going well until COVID. So Scotty does Uber for motorcycles in Istanbul. So you can actually beam, like Scotty beams you up. You can beam a super scooter, maxi scooter, and you can go anywhere you like. Probably in 1/3 of the time that it will take you with a car or a taxi, because Istanbul is a city with 20 million people. That's nuts. So Scotty was doing great, but then the pandemic hit. So basically, nobody's on the streets. Nobody wants to touch anybody else, let alone use their bicycle, motorcycle. So for 10 days, Scotty was going through a crisis. But the founder, I mean, I'm in the advisory board. The founder was able to turn around the business, make and he really cares about the drivers a lot. So he made deals with e-commerce companies that needed an additional last mile delivery solution because everybody started using e-commerce like crazy. That was a big turning point, and Tarkan was able to do it in a very short amount of time. He had to let go a lot of the people who were in the ride sharing side, but he was able to increase his payroll when he switched to this e-commerce last mile delivery services. I'm super inspired with his perseverance while going through a lot of personal challenges in family. Another startup in the US that I invested is building an alternative protein company. So probably you've heard of Impossible Burger or Impossible Meat or different companies that are using lab created meat. We think that's not the most efficient way of using resources and creating artificial meat, although they're not saying it's artificial, but a lot of the processing is going to take a huge amount of time. They raise a lot of money and they're doing great. But what Esra does, another Turkish founder, she's using insects that consume waste leftover food over food processing companies. So it's not like garbage waste, but a lot of the food processing companies have vegetables and fruit leftovers, and she uses those to grow these insects, and then she does it hygienically to grind them and then turn them into alternative food. For pets is a complete business, but she's doing it for humans. She's gone through a lot of regulatory changes, a lot of structural changes, and again, she's starting to sell B2B to restaurants in the United States, and every restaurant got shut down. So she also went through a lot of challenges in the recent past, but she fundraised during the pandemic, and hopefully her first restaurants that will be serving Funa foods will be live by the end of the month. So these and a lot more stories, I'm blessed to be able to help them. Another recent example is an education technology platform that helps kids with different spectrums of autism. They also had a huge issue when schools shut down because parents do not use these apps. It's usually the teachers who are skilled to train special education kids. So you as a parent can guide your children if on mathematics at home. That's not really difficult, but you are not able to train your children if they have a learning disability. You will not be equipped even if you have the apps or everything else. So this company made a really quick turnaround and made a parent-facing app really quickly. So parents who are not able to send their kids to school will be able to interact with their kids and understand how they would learn, because usually parents are disconnected from how kids are learning. And we came to realization that it's not going to happen anytime soon, that kids will not be able to go back to school. So they made that turnaround, still impacting millions of parents and millions of kids' lives every day. So I'm super, super happy to be able to guide them. And all these startups are really inspirational to me. And most of the content that we are developing, the examples are full of these examples. So we're not giving Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg as an example to a high school student in Jakarta or Kuala Lumpur or Jeddah in Riyadh and Dammam. We are going to give them their examples that I'm happy to know personally. But great question. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Azan. Um,
Well,
the summer programs, I think the maximum is a 10-day program. Do you think
yeah.
that's enough? Would you like to make a 20-day program or a 30-day program in future?
So kids are kids, teenagers are teenagers. We tried suggesting to increase the daily workload, but the kids resisted because they don't want to spend 2 hours in summer. However, we did a test and we asked them how much time are you spending outside the 1 hour period, and most of them are spending additional 1.5 hours every day. So it's actually a 2.5 hour day workload for the children, for the teenagers, but we weren't able to convince them for a 2.5 hour experience. The way we did it is we give them assignments that they need to do together. They need to watch a movie together, and they need to critique the movie and summarize what they learned in the movie, and they need to record it on Zoom and share it with everybody else who did not watch the movie. So all of a sudden, we created a course that ends in this great session where every kid has seen an inspiring movie, has discussed this movie live with friends, and every one of them has also watched other people's short document, you can call them critique sessions. So all of a sudden, in a class of 20, there are 10 movies, 10 different groups, 8 to 10 different groups. They know 8 to 10 different movies and their breaking points, the points about innovation, ethics. Like if you watch the movie Founder, nobody knew, none of them, I mean, even I did not knew before I watched the movie that Ray Kroc is not the founder of McDonald's. And I did not know Ray Kroc actually stole the idea from the McDonald's brothers. Not only stole the idea from McDonald's brothers, also quote unquote stole somebody else's wife who was a franchise for him to build up this empire. And it's like, and the kids are discussing, well, I think I don't like McDonald's anymore. And the kids go like, why? I don't think he was very ethical, or why he should have given the name. He stole somebody's surname and did not allow them to use. And that's not entrepreneurship. That's not, is that legal? It is legal, but it's not ethical. So that conversation about finding a company, funding a company, but not losing the ethics, I think it's a pretty good experience. But to your question, they spend a lot more than 1 hour. And in our semester-long program, the school classes in K-12 are 35 minutes long. So our 10-day course is actually almost 1.5 semesters when you divide it into time scale. And with additional homeworks and reading materials and presentations, we extended that 10 days intensive summer course to a full year K-12 10th grader, 9th grader, 11th grader course. So it's a little bit additional material, but both sessions are live and they all get the access to the materials and also to the discussions when they get the long program. And it's a start. We don't want to replace hackathons. We don't want to replace STEM education or robotics education. We don't want to compete with competitions like junior achievement. We want to create kids to understand and be inspired to learn more, and through their K-12 education, whether they join to startup weekends or when they graduate, whether they choose a relatively relevant career to entrepreneurship, they will know, oh, if there's a hackathon, I know I can get into this. Oh, there's an accelerator in my university, I will get into this. They will be inspired to build entrepreneurship into their future DNA. I think that's a good term to put it. Thank you for a great question, though. Very well. Dr. Shafiq, I hope I pronounced it right. We have a very similar name called Shafiq in Turkish. So not sure if that's the right pronunciation, but whenever I see a doctor in the house, I get more serious, and I know I have to either ask a medical question like, can you fix this? Which is a boring joke, or ask their expertise. So Earl, Sartaj, Sarkut, Jim team, if you have a nice background, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear.
I've got loads of questions if nobody is.
No, go for it. I mean, the more, the better.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've got loads of questions. It feels like I'm interviewing you. It feels.
Oh, good. I'm used to being interviewed by investors and startups all the time.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Sorry, I think I might have missed it. So this program that you do, is it actually the summer program? Is it in a physical school or physical institution?
Everything's in, so we did everything online,
Okay.
hybrid. So there are live sessions that is used to inspire and educate and interact more. And there's recorded sessions, like small videos, not longer than 3 minutes for the teenagers to go through and get a basis for discussion. So all the sessions are recorded live and executed online at the moment. We think the post-COVID hybrid will be much preferred rather than physical only or online only. So, but the nature of our program is online at the end of the day, live, synchronous, or recorded asynchronous.
Okay. And where is the cohort from? Are they from a specific country, or are they from all over the world? The students.
So the high school we worked in was in Turkey. So that was a high school program for Turkish students.
Okay.
But the summer school we did last summer was open for students from all around the planet. We had students from US, Europe, Turkey. It was managed by an international university here in Turkey, but it was open for global students. And in August, 2nd of August, is our first fully global batch, where we're not going to have, ideally, we're not going to have any country represented by more than 20% of the students. So if you have 20 students, there's going to be maximum 5 Turkish students, and rest will be around the globe. Since we are a company based in Estonia, we're looking for European partners in Middle East as well, in Far East as well. So in August 2nd, we will have our 2021 summer course, starting with 20 students, hopefully from 20 different nationalities. Probably because of time differences, we're going to have about 10 to 8 different nationalities, but it will be a global batch.
That's
really important.
on chat.
Thank you, Sarkuch. So the common topics is a great question. Thank you for that. The common topics that students discuss is mostly about what is entrepreneurship and why did they become entrepreneurs. They feel entrepreneurs are different than business people. They feel entrepreneurs are different than people with careers, people who are working for a large company. So part of the conversation they have is, did you work for a company like my parents do most of the time? Or are you doing something like my parents have a business? Are you doing something different? Like, how are you different than my parents' company or my parents' work? And especially when they see younger entrepreneurs, they get inspired by what they studied is a really good concern for them. So they want, like, did you study entrepreneurship in college? And they're like, no, I studied civil engineering. I studied economics. I studied psychology. I studied architecture. And I go like, so you can be an entrepreneur even if you do not have the education. So in their minds, it is really difficult for them. It probably was difficult for us too. Like, they need to have a job in what they learned in college. They lose this immediately when they get into the first year of college. But before that, they don't know life is going to be way different. They will probably need to do a lot more things that are not taught in college. So that's how they start the conversation. And they usually, another point which surprised me personally in a positive way is they ask about impact a lot. They asked about, I don't want to be working for something I don't believe in. I want to be working for climate change. I want to be working for this cause. I want to create my own company because I want to solve this problem. Even some of them ask those, which is really inspiring. and they ask how they can start, which is to us the biggest win. How can I start building a social enterprise? How can I start building a change-driven startup, for profit or not for profit? To us, that's not important. And those are the important questions. And we guide them primarily through giving them resources, our video collection, our extensive video collection of short inspirational topics, education topics, our list of references to movies, books, biographies, and we give them the guidance to learn by themselves. Self-learning is really critical skill. And we tell them, what are you interested in day by day? I'm interested in Instagram. Great. So you like good quality artistic photography and filters? Yes. All right. Go search how Instagram came about. Go search what other companies existed before them. Go search how people are making money on YouTube. And if they're always on Discord or Twitch, we tell them, do you know how esport economy works? Not the esport apps or the games. Do you know how they're built? Who builds them? And they go like, I have no idea. So go search. Here are a couple of documentaries on indie game development. And they go like, I could not believe these are how the games were built. Or they come back, oh, I didn't know YouTubers were not making that much money. So I'm not going to be a YouTuber, but maybe I'm going to do something on technology that will help them. So they quickly understand, once you give them the right footing, they walk much faster than we can in inquiring things. And another thing we do, which surprises parents, is we give them assignments to do with their parents. We tell them, go ask your parents how many jobs they changed in their career. How many different career paths were they thinking when they start their college education, or doesn't need to be a college education? How are they making money and how much they're making money? So they immediately start conversing with their parents about the real life of adulthood. How do parents make money? How do parents support a family? What career paths were available to them? And they start immediately learning from their parents as well, which they thought was not relevant to start with. And parents get quite inquisitive as well to our content. They come asking, why is my children asking about building a company? I was like, if they want to build a company, we'll just support them. They're like, yeah, but like she's 15. They're like, yeah, she's not going to create a company now, but maybe when she's starting to go to college, she's going to make a living by creating some art or craft or software. And maybe when she graduates, she will become a corporate innovator, not necessarily a for-profit endeavor. So that's how we guide them, using their parents, using their peers and their inquisitive modes, and kind of turning their smartphone into a learning tool, learning management tool. So they search, they look into all the apps they have downloaded, search how they were built, and they get surprised. And that's what inspires them. That's a great question. Thank you so much. Thanks. So we have announced that it will take us about an hour. So we're almost at the top of the hour. So if Yogesh, Earl, Dr. Shafiq, Jim team, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot. We will be sending the recording of the session to all the registered users, and we'll also start sending you our deadlines and our program philosophy, including details through our brochures and websites, which is almost always under progress, but we're almost there in getting it right done. So thank you so much. It's been great. Thanks so much for sharing this whole session with us. As Umut just posted, you can follow me personally, you can follow Sage, and you can connect with us through LinkedIn as well. And if you guys have any questions, if you have any high school student who would be willing to join our 10-day course, it will be great. We will probably give you a special code, so you'll be able to use it to register. But we are not doing this first summer courses to make money. This is not something that we care about eventually at this moment. We are just trying to make sure we can deliver good value. And through our partners in the US, we can improve our content and have a wider reach through Middle East, Far East, and European partners that we have. So depending on your geographies, we'll be happy to touch base. If you have any references, we'll be happy to share. I already emailed you last night, this morning, so you have my direct access to my email as well, and you can connect with Umut or Burak or AJ as well. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks for great questions. Thanks, Salim. And that'll be great. That's more or less it. You are more than welcome. Thank you, sir. So
Thank you very much, Ozan. Great talk.
You're welcome. Thanks, AJ.
Thank
So
you,
we'll
everyone.
a little bit more, just in case.
Thanks, Ozan. I'll be in touch. We can definitely collaborate on some things.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thanks for showing up. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.